friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Mitzi, aka the Loopy Scientist, and in today's video we are going to be recapping my very first market experience. Since I'm the worst content creator in the whole entire world, I just haven't sat down to do this video, so I have to admit it is now April, and my very first market was actually in December. So I wanted to sit down and actually talk to you guys about it before I have any more events. So my first market was December 6th of 2025. This is going to be more of a recap than it is a market vlog because I actually ended up not filming a ton of the process. I meant to. I'm just really bad at content creation. I think I was stressed out before my first market, so I just didn't really do much to actually, like, while I was doing things for the market, I just really did not feel like also vlogging that process because I was pretty stressed. I'm just going to take y'all kind of through the steps, and if I have clips, I will insert them into this video. Good morning, everyone. It's market day, and I am ready to go. I basically have everything that I need. I've got here my bag with a bunch of yarn in it in case literally no one comes to my stall. I have enough to fill up the entire day. I have my display stuff, and then I also have some baskets and then my bag of plushies. So here's everything that I have. All right, let's get going. So I got my booth all set up, and then I realized that I forgot my business cards and like little thank you cards in the car. So I have to go grab those and then put them in there. I actually have a much bigger space than I thought. They said 10 by 10, but they gave us two 6-foot tables. So I was able to spread out a little bit more. And now we have that ready there. So that's good. Got business cards in hand, and then also the square reader. All right, I'm gonna have to let you guys go. Alright, so noon check-in. It has been 3 hours now, and I have sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 items. It was pretty steady traffic for the first hour, I would say, but then it slowed way down, and then I just got, I think, like 5 sales within like 10 minutes. So I'm assuming because it's lunchtime, I think they have food here, and they have pictures with Santa, I think, until 1. So maybe after people get done with that, they'll come. But it's been pretty good so far. I did do a lap, and there are 7 amigurumi artists here. So there's a lot of competition. But that's fine. I talked to one of them, and yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm having fun so far, and it's been really fun just like talking to people. So I think it's been a good day. I think the most, everyone's like, oh, it's so cute, and then some people just like can't afford it, but it's fine. So I actually got a good amount of the stuff that I needed from my friend Shannon, from Crochet by Shannon on Instagram. She actually moved out of the country and left me a lot of her display stuff. I'm not going to put that into like the total at the end of this video because it's a one-time purchase and stuff that I'll use throughout the whole thing, but I did end up, she was just going to give it to me for free because she's just the sweetest human alive, but I ended up giving her $100 for everything because she gave me a lot of things. So from her, I got a 10 by 10 tent, a 6-foot table, a 4-foot table, tablecloths for both of those, some lights for the tent, some like little candles and stuff, a keychain, like one of those like little spinny keychain things, and and 2 like acrylic risers for putting plushies on there. So she gave me a ton of stuff. So I did end up paying her for some of that stuff because I felt bad, and she was just going to give it to me for free because she's just so sweet, but I couldn't bring myself to just take all of that for free. That was a huge help for me because otherwise I would have just had to buy that stuff myself. Luckily, the market that I signed up for, it was at a local high school, and it was a holiday market, and they actually provided tables if you asked for one. So I ended up not needing any of the tables that she gave me, but I did end up needing basically everything else. It was also indoor, so I didn't need any of the tent stuff, but I did need all of the like risers and everything that she had given me. So I was super grateful to have had that stuff for that market. When it came to prepping for this market, I didn't want to stress myself out too much. What I did was basically I took everything that I've made crochet-wise over the past 2 years that I thought was actually in sellable quality, because there are some things that I made very early on that are not quality enough to sell to other human beings. But especially the stuff that I made while I was learning. But all of the plushies that I've made that like I felt had enough stuffing and didn't have a ton of gaps and things like that, I got those and I added those to my inventory for this. And then I ended up also, I prepped a little bit in terms of market prep by making little cats. I made 2 different types of cats, some like little sitting cats and then some like really tiny mini loaf cats. And then I also made gummy bears and gummy bear keychains. I made a couple of Christmas ornaments as well because this was a holiday market, but I didn't put too much emphasis on the holiday stuff because I didn't want to have a bunch of leftover holiday stock if it didn't sell. So I didn't make any like Christmas specific plushies or anything. I just made like little ornaments and little gift tag things and like gift card holder stockings. But I didn't do any sort of other holiday market prep aside from that. Now, before going into this market, I did inventory most of the stuff that I had. I ended up adding a couple of things last minute that I needed to add to Square last minute or forgot to add to Square. So if it sold, I just put in the amount. But as of the like inventory sheet that I had a total of $1,037 in inventory and 63 items. I would say I probably had closer to, goodness gracious, I keep messing this up. This first market that I did was a $50 vendor fee, and it was at a local high school. They had a craft fair going on the weekend of December 6th. I found it on this local like craft show website, and there were a lot of events going on that day because it was very close to the holidays. When I got there, we were expected to get there at about 7 to 7:30 in the morning, and the market started at 9. So I got there at about 7:30, got everything set up, and I think that I set up decently quickly. It was my very first time setting up for a market. I had done a little bit of a mock display in my living room, and I thought that I was only going to have one 6-foot table because that's what they said on the event website, that we were going to be provided with a 10 by 10 space and they would provide us with one table if we wanted it. So I thought that we would just get one 6-foot table and 10 by 10 space. Oh, you got your pig baby bug. So they said it was going to be a 10 by 10 space and it was an indoor market, but they would provide us with a 6-foot table. So I wasn't super clear on what the layout was going to be. They sent us a map so we knew where our booth was going to be. And I was honestly a little bit concerned before going there about the placement of my booth. Basically, the way that it was set up was just inside of that high school. And as you went in, there was a main hallway that would take you basically back into there was a main hallway that would take you basically back into the auditorium and cafeteria area, and that's where most of the booths were, either along that main hallway or in the cafeteria and auditorium. But then there were also two offshoots, like down into the hallways of the high school where there were like classrooms and stuff, and I was set up in basically that first offshoot to the right, all the way at the end. So I was very concerned that I was going to get no traffic back there, because in my mind, I was thinking you walk into the high school and you just kind of walk along that main path, and you don't really think about like that, those side wings, and especially because I was all the way at the very end and there were no entrances on that side, like the doors were locked, so it was really everyone coming in through one main door. I was very concerned that we were not going to get any traffic whatsoever. And whenever I was setting up, the person that was next to me, who was at the very end of the hallway as well, I mean, they were right next to the doors that led in there, the doors that were locked. They were saying that they were also very concerned about our location and that they didn't think that we were going to get any traffic. But I tried to continue keeping a positive attitude. I mean, that's my first event, so I wasn't too worried about it. I just wanted to have a good time, which I did. But I was a little bit concerned about that traffic, especially once I saw it coming in, because in my mind, I didn't think that anyone was even really going to go down there. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and recap the day for you guys. The very first hour was pretty steady when it came to people walking through. We got a lot of people that were actually like, they came down the hallway, which was great because I was concerned that no one was going to come down our hallway, but they did come down the hallway. But it was one of those situations where they came down the hallway, got to my table, stopped, looked, got to the table next to me, stopped, looked, and then said that they were going to make a lap and potentially come back around, which is completely fair. I feel like that's a good thing to do when you're at any sort of market. Now, let me tell you, there were 7 other crochet vendors at this market. And it's not like there were like a ton of vendors there. So 7 other crochet vendors, and it wasn't like everyone was fully dedicated to crochet. It was very interesting because there were some people that just had crochet items but didn't seem to be fully dedicated to crochet. So I took a lap around, and I basically, there was one person that sold crochet, but they also sold like Christmas wreaths and stuff. And then there was one person that sold like crochet, but it was like just a tiny bit of their stuff, and it definitely was amigurumi, but then they had like, it was like candles or something. I don't know. I didn't look too closely. And then there was another person that sold crochet blankets, which I think is just a completely different vibe than what I was giving. So I wasn't too concerned about that. There were, I would say, maybe 3 others that were fully just crochet plushies. The way that I did my market prep was, like I said, I just took things that I've made all throughout the years. It's not like I had 20 axolotls and 17 bears and 35 leggy froggies or whatever to choose from at that market. I had basically everything that I had was one of a kind, because I get very bored making things over and over again. So I'm really bad at batch making. If I'm making the same color of a pattern, I don't even really love making the pattern multiple times. I am one of those people that just gets bored very easily when it comes to making things for markets. So when people were approaching my table, I would say like, everything here is one of a kind. Like, you are not going to get another item. It's not like when you walk away, I'm going to stock this item again or anything like that. Whatever was out on the table was everything that I had, basically. And the only thing that I had duplicates of were the gummy bears, but they were all different colors. And I had 2 of these like little cookie buddies. But basically everything else I didn't have multiples of while I was there. So I think that created a bit of suspense, I guess, for the crowd, because they were like, oh, well, this might not be here when I come back. It was a really good vibe. Everyone was super nice. Everyone who came by the table was like, oh my gosh, you're so talented, which is always nice to hear. But like, then we would have conversations and some people would tell me that they crochet, or that they used to crochet, or that they could never do amigurumi because it's too hard and too much counting and things like that. So like, there were a lot of conversations that were started, and I really enjoyed talking to people. I try not to be one of those people that's like on you if you come to my booth, because I don't like someone that like just watches you the whole time that you're at the booth. So I actually had a crochet project with me. I was finishing up a baby Demogorgon while I was there. And I will talk about the Demogorgon in just a second. Just in general, it was like a really good vibe, especially for that first hour as people were coming through. Some people would come back by. There were high school kids, I think, that were just there because that's their high school that they go to. They would come, and some of them would like take a picture and be like, I need to send this to whoever because they're going to want this or whatever. So then they would leave. And then sometimes they'd come back and be like, do you still have that item? And there were a decent amount of people that would look at the prices and just be like, I can't afford this, which like, that's fine. I tried not to, especially because it was my first market, I didn't want to lower my prices. I really priced everything based off of vibes, not gonna lie. I don't have like a real big formula or anything for when it came to pricing things. I just kind of looked at my inventory and just kind of priced based off of size, how complex the pattern was, how long I remember it being, and if it was annoying to make, or if it had a lot of color changes, or if it had like some like harder techniques, things like that. I would kind of price it based off of that, but it was more based off of vibes than it was based off of, the materials with the hourly rate or anything like that, especially because whenever I first started crocheting, I wasn't keeping track of any of that. I am starting to keep track of it a little bit more now, so I can get a little bit better pricing for my items. But back then I was not doing that, definitely. So for my first market, I just kind of priced really based off of vibes. I made my first sale at 9:32 a.m. and it was for an ice cream Sammy. I will insert a picture of it here, but basically it was Boo from, like the Mario series. It was Boo in like 2 chocolate chip cookies. And this person that got that actually first picked up my baby orc, my chubby orc from the Squishy Witch, and looked at the price and was like, that's way too expensive. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And and then she picked up the ice cream Sammy and just bought that instead. So I really appreciated that she like still wanted something enough, even though she wasn't able to get the orc pattern, or the orc plushie, she was able to still get something else at a lower price. And then after that, I sold a little dragon. That creator has actually blocked me, so I can't tag them. That dragon sold. And then after that, while I was kind of waiting for people to come by, and as people were coming by, I was crocheting and things like that, I had been finishing up a little baby Demogorgon. And I really wanted to get it done before the market ended, because Stranger Things, I think, was starting to come out. I think they had just come out with part 1 of the season 5 episodes, and it was before part 2 and the finale came out. So I was working on this baby Demogorgon, and as I was working on it, multiple people came by and they were like, are you working on a Demogorgon? And I was like, yeah, I'm just finishing it up right now. It'll be for sale in a little bit. And as soon as I was done with this Demogorgon, someone came up and was like, can I buy that from you right now? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I just sold it to her for $20. She actually also ended up getting a purple axolotl with it. So that was a $32 sale. As soon as she walked away, she actually stuck around while I finished like the embroidery and like hiding the ends and stuff. She stuck around, like she was just at the next table talking to the other vendor. And as soon as I was done, she paid for it and she left. And as she was walking away, a little girl came back and basically was like, "Did you finish that Demogorgon? Can I buy it?" And I was like, "I am so sorry. It literally just sold. Like, it sold as I was finishing it." She was like, "Oh no." So she ran off, and then her mom came, and her mom basically said, "Can I just pay you for another Demogorgon right now? I will just pay you for it. And if you finish during the market, great. If you don't, I will come pick it up from you. Or we can work out shipping. I will pay you for shipping." But she really wants it. And I was like, "You know what? I actually have the yarn to make another one. So if it's slow enough, then I will try to finish it for you and then just deliver it here." And she was like, "Even if you don't, like, go ahead and take the money." So she gave me $20 and she gave me her phone number and just told me to text her when I finished it. So, so during the rest of the market, I was actually working on that Demogorgon and I was actually able to deliver it to her. So that was another $20 sale, which that was really sweet because she was just so happy whenever I delivered it to her, and it really warmed my heart. So that's just a little side note from the day. After I sold the dragon, I sold a sitting cat. So that was for $10, and a gummy bear keychain, and that was for $8 for an $18 sale. And then I sold a frog keychain, a ghost keychain, and a frog loaf. So that was from Lala Cloud Studios, who is no longer active, but I had made that loaf frog. It was one of the first things that I had made. Luckily, it was like stuffed enough. Like, it was one of the first like better things that I had made. So it was stuffed enough and it was really still really cute. Sold that for $15 to one person basically. And so I sold a frog keychain, a ghost keychain, and the frog loaf for a total sale of $30. And then I sold a purple leggy froggy for $10. And then I sold the Frankie frog for $12. And at that point, I was like, people are really loving these frogs. And I was really confused as to why, like, all of the frogs were selling, and people even had come by and they had asked me if I was selling frogs. And like, those were the people that either got those frogs there, or they were like, "Oh man, the frog that I wanted is gone." So I thought that was really strange. But I just kept going with the day. Then I sold a cookie buddy, which is by my friend Shauna, the squishy witch. I made it in petite pearl. It's like a tiny little no, just kidding, this one wasn't in petite pearl. Yeah, then I sold a cookie buddy. That one was for $12. I made that in baby bear. It's by my friend the squishy witch over on Instagram. And then I sold a panda for $15, and that pattern is by Coffee and Crochet. Coffee and Crochet, I think, was the name of the shop. They're no longer active, but it's basically just like a little loaf panda. Then I sold a loaf kitty, a Siamese version of it, for $8. Then someone came by and they gave me this little hair clip, and it was a weenie dog, because they had come up to my booth and we were talking, and they had a dog in like a little stroller, and it was so cute. And I was telling them about my dogs, and I had told them that my weenie dog, had passed away, and how it was really sad, and like they were just very sweet. I had told them about my weenie dog, Jasper, as you know, the mascot of this brand, that he had passed away in May, and that it had been a really hard year, and we were just kind of talking, and they ended up giving me this little hair clip that is a weenie dog. And it was just so sweet. So I actually ended up gifting them a little panda as well from Poggy's Place. I'll put the pattern up here. Because they had given me something, so I wanted to give them something as well, and they were eyeing the panda. I told them to choose anything from like the $10 to $12 area, and so they chose that panda and they took that. But it was just a really sweet moment. And then I sold a frog that I made with Sweet Snuggles. Not Sweet Snuggles, light Sweet Snuggles. So it was a pretty large one. I sold that for $15. And then someone came by and I sold them a leggy strawberry for $10. And that was basically the end of the day. Then after that, I don't have it written down on here because this was actually my friend Shannon, the one that had given me everything for the market display. She had bought a Yeti bean, a bandana, and a snow bean ornament. The snow bean pattern is by my friend Snailboat Studios over on Instagram and YouTube. And the Yeti bean pattern is by my friend Extra Naughty, Shyla, over on Instagram. They have like a tiny little Yeti. They have a lot of mods for their goblin bean pattern, and I had tested that Yeti bean. Shannon got those, so that was a $35 sale. Okay, so all together, so that was my last sale of the day, actually, was from Shannon, and it was out 1:58 p.m. I think that the market ended at 3 p.m. So for the last hour, we didn't have anything. And I thought that maybe it was my location, but then I did a walk around the actual event and it seemed like it just wasn't very busy. I think that had to do with the fact that there were a lot of events going on throughout DFW that day. There were probably, I would say, 17 other events that I know of throughout the Metroplex that day. I don't really mind. I think it was just a busy time and there were just a lot of events going on. And to be fair, there were 7 crochet vendors there. So if someone didn't see something that they liked at my booth, they had others to choose from. Overall, though, I thought that the event went really well. People-wise, I had a blast at this event. Like, I talked to my vendor friends, I chatted with them, I went and got things from other vendors, and I got really good tips from everyone that had done other events. And so overall, I think that it was a huge win that day. I do want to talk a little bit about my experience with the other crochet vendors though. I mentioned in my clip that I had gone to introduce myself to another vendor, and I want to get a little bit more into that. So I kind of did a lap, and then I went to one of the booths inside of like the main area. I went up to the booth and I just started kind of looking around, and they said hi to me. And then I feel like as soon as I said that I was another crochet vendor, their mood switched on me a little bit. But I asked them how it was going for them, and they were basically like, oh, it's so slow. Like, they kind of had a bit of a bad attitude about it, but I was just like, maybe they just expect a little bit more. Like, it's not their first market, so it's fine. Like, I'm just here because I'm excited. So I try not to take it too personally or anything like that. I wouldn't say that they were the most friendly person in the world while I was over at their booth, but I try not to take it too personally because, you know, they had a lot going on. They were wanting to make sales. They thought that it was kind of slow. Whatever, it's fine. I went back to my table, and then towards the end of the market, that same vendor was walking around with their kid, and their kid came up to my booth and basically said like, oh, this is really cute, or something along those lines, and like said that they wanted one of my items. And this person basically said, why would I buy that when I have a booth? Like, I could just make that, like, I have a booth of my own. Why would I buy from another crochet vendor? And then just like walked away, basically. Didn't say hi to me or anything, even though I hadn't gotten and introduced myself previously. So that like wasn't my favorite experience in the world, I will say, because I feel like I'm very much, I understand like not wanting competition at the events that you're at. That's completely fair. but I'm very much a community over competition sort of person. So I was kind of hoping to make a new crochet friend through that, and that's just not what happened. They didn't seem to have a very good attitude, and they even like basically told their child that they would never buy from another crochet vendor, which I feel like is just not, it's not my type of vibe. So I had already followed them on Instagram while I was there. Even after we had had that conversation, I followed them on Instagram, but they never followed me back, which is like, whatever. But after that whole interaction, I just kind of felt a little bit icky about it. So actually, just a few days ago, I remembered that I was going to be filming this video, and then I was like, wait, am I still following them? And I realized that I am. So I ended up unfollowing them because I just don't think that we're going to be friends. But yeah, so that wasn't my favorite experience. I think that was the only really like negative experience that I had at the market, which it sucks that it was with another crochet vendor. But other than that, everyone was lovely. I had such a good time. And like, even if people didn't buy anything, they took my card. I got some followers on Instagram, and I was able to have like really lovely conversations with the people that were coming around. I also speak Spanish, so like if people were like bringing their parents and stuff around, like I could chat with them as well. So overall, I think it was really good vibes. At the end of the day, I made $254 in profit at this event, and like I said, I paid $50 for my vendor fee, so that's $204. I did get some square fees taken out of that, so let me double check how much that was. Oh, sorry. It was $256 in total sales. And after square fees and everything and taxes. Oh, I actually didn't have any square processing fees this time around because I think I was still on their free trial, so that wasn't there. But I did end up paying taxes on some of this. So my net sales were $236.58. So I know it's not like this like huge number or anything like that, but I was really happy with it as my first market experience. And I had overall a really positive experience at this market. And I thought that the vibes were good. And so you know how I mentioned earlier about the frogs. I will remember if I do this market again next year to look up the mascot for the school that you are going to. Pro tip now, I guess, beginner tip. The mascot of the school was the bullfrogs. So that's why so many people were coming up and asking for frogs, because all of my frogs sold out. I sold every single frog that I had, and I thought that that was super weird. And people even like came up and asked if I had frogs, and I thought that that was so strange. Duh, whenever I left, I realized they're the bullfrogs. So of course they're going to be asking for frogs. So if I do end up doing this market again next year, I will take frogs, or if I do it at a different high school, I will take whatever mascot they have, because that seems to be a very popular item. I made a lot of really positive connections, both with customers and other vendors, aside from that one crochet vendor. And overall, I just had a really good day, and I would definitely do it again. I know that it's not like the most profits in the world, but to me, you know, even just hanging out at this market, it didn't feel like too much work for me to go to this market, especially because it was indoor and it was, you know, just on a Saturday. It felt very chill. So I was really happy with the outcome. So I have actually had one other market type event since then. It was a pop-up event at a local coffee shop that I go to very often, and I've gotten to know the owner, and the owner's the best. And so I ended up doing kind of a pop-up event. They had pop-up events all throughout the weekend, where they provided just a 6-foot table, and you would go for a 4-hour time block throughout the weekend of their 1-year anniversary. And I went on Sunday from 8 to 12 on that weekend. It was back in February. I ended up making a total of $95 in sales. I was just there. Keep in mind, I was just there for 4 hours. And honestly, it was probably closer to 3.5 hours by the time I got set up, because I got there at 8 a.m. basically. And it was on a Sunday. So maybe it was just a little bit slower because people were at church or doing other things and things like that. But I made $95 in sales at that one. And at that market, I sold 2 gummy berry keychains and a bookmark for a total of $21. 1 mini loaf kitty for $8. Then I made a sale of 2 mini loaf kitties for $16. Then I sold a bookmark for $5. Loaf seal, and it just says other keychains. I don't remember what the keychain was. Not gonna lie to you. I don't remember what the keychain was, but it was a keychain for $8. And then I sold another keychain for $15. And then I sold a little crow for $15. I made a total of $95 in sales, and minus the fees and everything, the net sales were, minus all the taxes and everything, I made $87.77 at that market. And the table was free, so that's all profit. And I didn't really make that much for that market because I had a lot of leftover stock from the holiday market. And so it was a win. I made, I think, some bookmarks and some like cup cozies beforehand, but that was it. So I was really happy with that. And I came into it, even if I made no sales, like worst case scenario, I just hang out at my favorite coffee shop for 4 hours. That's fine. I will do that on any day. So I was completely okay with that. But I made $95 out of it, and that sounds good to me. But yeah, overall, I think I've had very positive market experiences just in general. I've really enjoyed that connection that you make with people when they come up to your booth and then they want to talk, and some people want to tell you about their crochet past or someone that they know, maybe their grandma or something like that used to crochet, or, oh, I could never do that. And then I basically tell them, like, I also felt like maybe I couldn't do it, and then I just got a Woobles kit, and then now here I am. And it's just really nice seeing like the look on people's face when something brings them joy. So overall, I've had wonderful market experiences. I actually have 2 more markets coming up, one on April 25th and one on May 5th. No, one on April 25th and one on May 2nd. And the one on April 25th is also at that local coffee shop again. And I will just be setting up there for some time. And again, it's a free event, so I'm just going to go and set up and just hang out at my local coffee shop and hopefully sell some stuff. And then the one on May 2nd is my first outdoor event, so I will definitely try to vlog that whole process because that's going to be a bit more of a involved market prep process. If you enjoyed this video and if you enjoyed this market recap, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you around. If you've done markets, leave a comment down below with your favorite market tips. I will take whatever advice that I can get because I'm still very fresh at this. So if you have any tips, advice, or things to watch out for, please leave them in the comments down below. If you haven't done a market yet, but you're looking into it, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. I will tell you even more details about my market experience if you want. That'll be the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.